All right, dive buddies, ready to jump into a new deep dive. Today we're tackling something that's surprisingly tricky, metrics. And not just how to read them off a dashboard, but what they actually are.
It's funny, data gets thrown around so much these days.
Oh,
But
it's gonna be.
knowing the difference between a random data point and a real insightful metric,
That's the game changer right there.
it really is. And that's what we're going to unpack today.
Exactly. Whether you're building a business, analyzing trends, just trying to sound smart at your next virtual coffee break.
Which, let's be honest, we all want to do.
Trust me, this deep dive is going to be surprisingly useful.
Yeah.
So no matter what our sources kept saying, it all comes back to this idea of a data model. And I gotta admit, that sounds kind of intimidating, right?
It sounds way more complex than it actually is.
Oh, okay, good. So can we break it down? What does data model even mean when we're talking about metrics?
Think of it like a recipe, right? You've got your ingredients, flour, sugar, eggs. Those are your data points.
Okay, I'm with you.
On their own, they're just raw materials. But the recipe, the way you combine them, the steps you take, that's your data model. It takes those individual data points and turns them into something bigger, something more meaningful.
I'm starting to see how this works. So it's not just about the raw data itself, it's how we organize it, how we give it meaning.
Exactly. It's the story we tell with the data.
Okay, love that. A story. So do you have a real world example to make this super clear?
Absolutely. Let's say you're looking at website traffic. Each time someone visits your site, that's an event, a single data point. We can call it page viewed, right?
Yeah, page view makes sense.
Now, you could have thousands of those page viewed events every single day.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But the metric, the thing that gives you the real insight, might be website views count.
Okay, so it's tracking the total number over time.
Exactly. It's built from all those individual page viewed events, but it represents something more. It tells you how many people are visiting your site over a week, a month, whatever time frame you choose.
So it's not just about knowing that someone landed on your site. It's about understanding the bigger picture of your traffic. Are more people coming? Are they visiting more often? Things like that.
Exactly. And that's where the difference between metrics and just random data points becomes so crucial.
Especially when we're working on a team, right? You need everyone speaking the same language.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
It's like if you're trying to bake a cake with someone and they keep calling the flour cake.
That's not going to end well.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Exactly. So we need clear communication, which is why the semantic layer our sources kept mentioning is so interesting. What is that, and how does it fit into all of this?
Great question. And it's really about bringing more structure and standardization to how we define metrics, especially as we get more and more data from different places.
Okay, she's like,
It's like having a universal recipe book where everyone knows exactly what each ingredient means and how to measure it.
I love that analogy. So if our metric is this perfectly crafted cake, what are some things that people often mistake for the real deal?
All the time. One of the biggest ones is thinking that events themselves are metrics. Like that page view we talked about earlier. That's an event, an ingredient. It's not the whole story.
It's like having a bag of flour, right?
Yeah.
You can't just call it a cake. You need the recipe, the data model to turn it into something delicious.
Exactly. What else trips people up? Properties. Those give you more information about an event or a user, but they're not metrics on their own.
Give me an example.
Sure. Like a user's age. That's a property. It's valuable information, but it's not a metric until you use it to calculate something meaningful. Like, say, the average age of people who buy your product.
Okay, events and properties, not metrics on their own. Got it. But then there are segments, and our sources were kind of vague on those. Help me out here.
Yeah, segments are tricky because they can be metrics, but they often aren't. In Integromat, they had a good example of this. They had this segment they called activated account. And the way they defined it was whether a user created an active scenario in their system.
So the segment itself is activated users, and because they defined how to measure it, that becomes the metric.
Exactly. They basically created a recipe, that data model, for identifying an activated user. Their specific condition was active scenario count is greater than 0.
Makes sense. But when is a segment not a useful metric then?
When it doesn't really tell you much on its own. Like Integromat also mentioned a segment of new users who saved a scenario but didn't activate it.
Okay.
They had all the specifics, events, properties, the words.
It's just too much.
Kinda. It could technically be a metric, but it's so specific that it's more helpful for a targeted email campaign, not for understanding bigger trends.
This is where it gets really interesting for me because it's about asking the right questions. We can track all this stuff, but what's the point if it's not actually useful?
And that leads perfectly into the exercise our sources talked about.
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, listeners, after this, I want you to think about the segments you use, maybe in your analytics dashboard or your marketing automation. Write down the conditions for those segments in as much detail as you can. Don't hold back.
This seems simple,
Yeah.
but you'd be surprised what you discover. Are you actually tracking what matters, or have you just been mistaking a pile of ingredients for a finished cake?
More on that and what to do with those ingredients after a quick break. It's like this exercise of really digging into your segments. It seems so basic, but I already see how it could be a game changer.
Oh, for sure. You get so used to seeing those segments in your reports, you don't always stop and think, what does this actually mean?
Totally. But beyond just cleaning up our data, why does this all matter? What's the takeaway for our listeners?
When you really understand what your metrics are telling you, that's when you can make good decisions. Building a product, marketing, just understanding your customers, it all comes back to having the right metrics.
So more than just data, it's about getting insights, stuff that helps you take action.
100%. It starts with knowing what you're looking at. Is this just a random ingredient, or is it part of something bigger?
And that's where that semantic layer comes in, right? Make sure everyone's on the same page.
Exactly. The more data we have, the more important that shared language becomes.
So no more arguing over what a conversion really means. I like it. But for those who are maybe feeling a little overwhelmed with all this data talk, what's the one thing you want them to remember?
In a world drowning in data, knowing how to separate the noise from the actual insights, that's a superpower.
Love that. It's about moving beyond just collecting data and actually understanding what it means, how it can help you reach your goals.
Exactly.
And that's what we're all about here on the Deep Dive. We're not just throwing information at you. We're giving you the tools to think for yourselves, ask the right questions, and then make smarter decisions because of it.
Because what good is knowledge if you don't know what to do with it?
Couldn't agree more. Okay, so for everyone who's ready to roll up their sleeves and actually put this stuff into practice, let's talk about that exercise again.
Right. We challenged you to break down your segments, really look at what defines them.
And I know it sounds simple,
But you got to be honest with yourself. Are you tracking what truly matters, or are you just looking at a jumbled mess of data points?
because it's more than just keeping your data organized, right? It's about making sure the information you base your decisions on is actually aligned with your goals.
Exactly. And once you've gone through that, taking your segments apart and really looked at them, then you can take it a step further. Ask yourself, okay, what other metrics can I get from this information?
So it's like, don't stop at the surface level. Dig deeper, see if there are hidden insights waiting to be found.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to play around a little. Try creating some new segments based on what you've learned. You might be surprised at what you find.
Ooh, I love that. It's like being a data detective, looking for those clues that nobody else sees.
I like that. Because in a way, that's what we are when we work with data. We're searching for those insights that can help us make better choices and get better outcomes.
And sometimes those aha moments come from the most unexpected places, you know?
Exactly. Which is why it's so important to be curious, to be willing to experiment, to keep an open mind when you're looking at data. You never know what you might find.
It's like we're saying, don't just accept the data as it's presented to you. Turn it inside out, see what's hiding beneath the surface.
And that's what distinguishes those who simply consume data from those who can truly wield it as a tool for understanding and change.
So much of this comes back to having the confidence to ask those dumb questions.
I'd argue there are no dumb questions when it comes to data, because often those seemingly simple questions are the ones that unlock the most profound insights.
It reminds me of that quote, "The greatest obstacle to discovery is not ignorance, it's the illusion of knowledge."
That's spot on. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking we have all the answers when we have access to so much data. But the real magic happens when we approach it with humility and a willingness to learn.
And that's something we hope you'll take away from today's deep dive. It's not about memorizing definitions or trying to sound like a data scientist.
It's about asking those questions, even if they seem obvious.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. Don't be afraid to look at a chart and say, wait, what does this even mean?
Exactly, because sometimes that's how you find the really juicy insights.
Totally. So whether you're like a data pro or just starting to explore this stuff, what's the key takeaway you want everyone to remember?
I'd say learning to really understand metrics, like what they are, how to use them, that's a skill that can help you no matter what you do.
It's like a superpower. because data's everywhere.
everywhere.
Right.
And if you can speak the language of data, not just to like impress people, but to understand it, use it to make good decisions, that's powerful.
So well said. And that's why we love doing these deep dives. It's not just about giving you information, but about giving you the tools,
Absolutely.
the tools to ask better questions, make better decisions, and hopefully see the world in a whole new way.
That's what it's all about.
So next time you come face to face with some data, don't just scroll past it. Stop, ask those questions, and see what happens. Until next time, dive buddies, keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and we'll catch you on our next deep dive.